After being a stepmom for 10 years, the divorce broke me with just one sentence from my ex. You can't have kids. And you're stuck raising a stepson. I honestly wanted to keep both twin boys. I'd been hurt by my own family favoring boys over girls. For 10 years I busted my ass to be fair. Same clothes, same food, same everything. The younger one had a sweet mouth. He called me mom since he was little. I couldn't help favoring him without even realizing it. The older one was quiet and kept to himself. He always handled everything on his own. But my mother-in-law kept stirring the pot behind my back. The younger one slowly turned spoiled and bratty, throwing tantrums and slamming things all the time. My sister couldn't take it anymore. She told me to stop playing peacemaker. Something just clicked for me. I chose the older one in the divorce, the hard-working sensible kid, and cut ties with the younger one completely. The kid who used to be my little favorite will never get my love again. Where to find amazing stories? Rimu brings them to you slowly. Full story posted in one go. Hey friends, ready or not? Here comes the real story. My name is Wu Fang. I'm 40 this year. 10 years ago when the family changed, his ex-wife ran off with someone else. Left behind 2 5-year-old boys. Twin brothers. They looked exactly the same. But their personalities were night and day. The older one, Li Ping, was a total clam. Kept everything bottled up inside. The younger one, Li An, spilled everything. All over his face. I was born infertile. But on the first day I married my mother-in-law took my hand and said, "It's okay. You're coming into a family with 2 kids. Not having your own is fine too. Just raise them like they're yours." My mom kept calling and telling me, "You're the stepmom. Can't play favorites. Or people will say you're mistreating the kids. Since you can't have your own, you gotta be extra good to the kids. That way they'll accept you later on." I believed that. From then on I poured my whole heart into them, treating both stepsons exactly the same. Same price on clothes. Equal time helping with homework, allowance, birthday gifts. I kept a record of every single parent-teacher meeting I went to. I wrote them all down. I was terrified of being unfair. Li Huan laughed at me for being too careful, saying we're all family. Why do we have to split things so evenly? He just doesn't get it. I've had more than enough unfairness in my life. There were 4 of us siblings. My parents always favored me, the oldest boy since day one. If there were 4 chicken legs on the table, they'd put all of them in my bowl. Just because I was the only son. When my dad got sick and had to leave the factory, my sister was supposed to take his spot. But my mom wanted to secure a steady job for her son. So she grabbed the job herself. My sister dropped out of school and never got the job. She ended up getting married young. She spent half her life in the village. When I went back a few years ago, I saw her squatting in the yard, feeding the chickens. Her hair was half gray. Her back was hunched. She was only 42. When I was 20, I met someone I liked. But he didn't like me back. He was a simple guy. We'd already talked about the bride price. But my parents thought it wasn't enough to cover my brother's house. So they told him I was 10. And delayed the wedding. He ended up marrying someone else. Had 2 kids. I didn't get married until I was 30, to Li Huan, a divorced guy with a kid. My youngest sister got it even worse. She had the best grades growing up. She was the smartest of us 4. After middle school, my dad wouldn't let her continue. Her teacher came to talk to us, said she could get into Tsinghua or Peking University. My dad just smoked his cigarette and said, "What's the use of a girl getting an education? She'll get married sooner or later anyway." My sister knelt in the yard all night begging him, but he never gave in. Meanwhile, my brother failed the high school entrance exam 3 years in a row. But my parents borrowed money to send him to repeat. 1 year wasn't enough, 2 years. 2 years wasn't enough, 3. He finally got into a technical school. My parents told everyone, "Our son is an educated man." My sister was 18 that year. She bought a train ticket and went south to work without looking back. The day she left, she threw her school bag on the stove. "Say goodbye to mom and dad. I'm never coming back in this life." He really never went home again. Never called them mom or dad again. My parents' hearts were biased. So biased that us 3 daughters were squeezed right out of that house. So I swore, if I ever have kids, I would never play favorites. To my children, I would be fair. Completely fair. But even though I said treat them equal, deep down I'd already shown favor. Right after we got married, Li Huan brought me home. Right before we walked in, he kissed me. The older one is shy. The younger one is lively. He said cut me some slack. Liping Lian say hi to mom. The older one Liping stood there, staring blankly for a long time. He finally squeezed out an hello auntie, then hung his head and ran off. But the younger one, Leon, was different. The moment he saw me, he lunged right at me, knocked me back a step. His little arms hugged tight around my waist, and he looked up and yelled, "Mommy, mommy!" He was only 5 years old then, missing a front tooth. When he smiled, it whistled through the gap. But my heart melted right there. After that, when he went out with me to visit relatives, he'd introduce me to everyone. "This is my mom." I know that's wrong. I shouldn't play favorites. But I couldn't help it. Like making breakfast. I'd make pancakes for the older one. Knead the dough, roll it out, cook it in the pan until done. But for the younger one, I'd be extra careful. No scallions in the pancake. And make sure it's crispy. The younger one doesn't eat scallions. And he likes it crunchy. Or buying clothes. Even though they cost the same, I'd pick dark, stain-proof colors for the older one. But for the younger one, I'd pick bright colors he liked. He'd spin in front of the mirror wearing them, asking me if he looked good. When they were in 2nd grade, I went to my first parent-teacher conference as a parent. The younger one held my hand and ran all the way into the classroom, shouting to every kid, "This is my mom." The boss is standing at the end of the hallway. No one came over. I never asked him why he didn't come. I'm afraid if I ask him, he'll say you're not my mom. Later they started middle school. Separated into different classes. Actually, when it comes to reading, the second one is really smart. The same homework. The boss has to work until 10 p.m. The air notebook is completely filled up with writing. And the second guy? When I get home from school, I play video games for 2 hours first. Just flip through a book after dinner. The next day, I still scored in the top 10 of the class on the exam. The teacher grabbed my hand during the home visit and said, if Ang Lee actually put his mind to it, he could really get somewhere. Top 5 in the city? No problem. I'm so happy to hear that. Turning around, he saw the boss sitting in the corner, looking down, still holding the freshly finished test paper in my hand, even though they got the same mom. But the boss did it 3 times. I copied the wrong questions 5 times, barely scraping into the top 20. At that moment my heart gave a little sting. But the second kid just poked his head out of the room. I yelled, "Mom, I want to eat the pancakes you make." I walked into the kitchen with a smile. It finally hit me later. Smart people have nothing to fear. People who work hard never speak up. The oldest and the second oldest are both doing really well in school. They all look pretty good at home. So they quickly became the famous twin heartthrobs at school. Later there was this one time at school when we had to turn in the family info form. The 2 kids filled it in differently. A mother who doesn't know how to be one. A mother who has passed away. The teachers are chatting in the office. A mischievous male classmate heard it. After that guy went back, he started spreading the word everywhere. Someone's asking about number 2. He clenched his teeth and kept saying, "I have a mom." But later, at the parent-teacher conference, it's finally out in the open. The second child calls me mom. Boss called me auntie. The classmates next to me looked at each other in confusion. They're twins. How come they don't have the same mom? From that day on, some people joke that the 20th is the stepmom's kid. I'll go pick him up. Later, some of his classmates walked by, laughing and teasing him. "Lian, your stepmom's here to pick you up." He just kept his head down and said nothing. I called his name, but he didn't answer. After a long time, he finally looked up and glanced at me. I still remember that look. It wasn't hatred, not anger, but avoidance. He didn't want me to pick him up anymore. After that, the younger one started keeping his distance from me. He didn't run up to me calling mom anymore, didn't hold my hand when we walked, didn't chatter about school at the dinner table. One time I made his favorite braised pork belly. He took a bite, put down his chopsticks and said, "Too salty." I said I'd make it again. And he just threw the plate on the floor. "Why do you have to make such a big deal? You're my stepmom, not my real mom. Stop pretending." The plate shattered all over the floor, braised pork belly rolling everywhere. I stared at the mess, frozen for a long time. But the older one, I don't know when he stood up. He walked into the room, grabbed the younger brother by the collar, and dragged him in front of me. Apologize. The younger one turned his face away. The older one just stared at him, holding onto his collar. Finally the younger one hung his head, and mumbled in a voice barely louder than a mosquito, "Sorry." Only then did the older one let go. He quietly grabbed a broom, and carefully swept up all the broken pieces and meat off the floor. Nothing else. He didn't say a word. Later I was worried the younger one might get hungry at night, so I secretly saved his favorite dishes, covered them with a bowl, and left them in the kitchen. But when I got up the next morning, the food was dumped in the trash, and the bowl was broken on the floor. I didn't say anything. I just silently cleaned it up, and went on making breakfast. Then, that New Year's, when Grandma gave the two boys their red envelopes, she gave them a talking to. But I happened to overhear it. "Your stepmom is nice to you. That's only because she can't have kids of her own. She's getting old, and no one will take care of her. Don't be dumb and actually treat her like a real mom. What stepmom is ever sincere?" The younger son nodded and smiled. He just acted coy with Grandma and said, "I know." But the older one, who had always been like a silent shadow, frowned and said, "Grandma, you can't think of Auntie that way. Auntie really works hard." I stood outside the door, and just felt a sharp sting in my heart. All these years, I've paid far less attention to the older one than the younger one. But he knew how hard I worked. And I had no idea. The older one likes to wear dark clothes. Is it really because he likes dark colors? Or just because they don't show dirt? A thorn pricked deep in my heart. But back then, I was still thinking about what Grandma, the stepmom, had said to me. Be fair. Be fair to both kids. Both sides of the hand are my flesh. I thought my days would just go on like that. But I never expected that half a year ago, Li Hua started acting off. Looking back now, the signs were actually there all along. That day, Li Huan was brushing his teeth. His phone suddenly rang. I casually picked it up for him. And from the receiver came a woman's voice. She sounded a bit nasally, like she'd just been crying. Before I could even say anything, Li Huan rushed out of the bathroom, toothpaste foam still hanging at the corner of his mouth, and snatched the phone out of my hand. He glanced at me, didn't say a word, and turned around to go into the room. The walls in our place aren't that soundproof, and Li Huan has a loud voice. Normally, if he talks a little louder, you can hear it in the living room. But today he was acting really weird. He talked on the phone in the room for about 10 minutes, and I pressed my ear to the door outside, but couldn't hear a thing. But he didn't know. I'd already seen the name on the phone. Yi Yi. If I'm not wrong, that person is probably Shen Yi, Li Huan's first love. Later on, he started coming home later and later. He had this obvious floral and fruity scent on him. It wasn't the soapy smell of our laundry detergent. It was clearly some woman's perfume. One time I even found a long strand of hair on his shirt collar. Brown. Curly. And I have short to medium hair. Black. But I didn't ask. I was too scared to ask. I was afraid that if I asked, everything would be over. But me not asking didn't mean Li Huan was willing to let it slide. That day, while the kids weren't home, he brought it up at the dinner table. He said Shen Yi got divorced. Now she's living on her own. Their true love. Back then they split out of spite. At this age, he didn't want to miss out again. At that moment I looked up at him. His eyes were so bright, a brightness I'd never seen before. After a long silence, I finally spoke. When are we doing the paperwork? How are we splitting the assets? He was stunned for a second, probably didn't expect me to be so willing. The house is yours. Half the savings. But the two kids. He paused. Could you take one with you? I stared wide-eyed at Li Huan. Yi has never taken care of kids. Taking both at once would be too much for him. He couldn't look at me. Just stared at the food on the table. Wu Fang. Since you can't have kids anyway, just take one with you. That way I'll be a single dad. And you'll have someone to take care of you when you're old. I froze. Because I was actually going to say I wanted both kids. They're both my flesh and blood. I've raised them for 10 years. I can't bear to let them go. But now it seems, I probably can't take both. After all, I have no blood relation to them. When I married Li Huan, I was their stepmom. When I divorce Li Huan, I'm nothing to them. Will the younger one come with me? Will the older one want to come with me? I don't know. I was lying in bed, tossing and turning, couldn't fall asleep. Thought about it for a long time. In the end, I still can't stop worrying. Both kids are right in the thick of their high school entrance exams. The older one is hardworking. He moved up 20 spots in the practice test. His teacher says he can make top 50 in the city. He'll definitely get into a top school. The younger one's a bit lazy. But he's smart. If he puts in the effort, he can get decent scores too. What about Li Huan? He's always busy, never home. Leaves in the morning before the kids wake up. Comes back at night after they're already asleep. Which kid would go with him? Can he even take care of them? Besides, I heard from Huo a long time ago. He and Shen Yi used to fight all the time when they were together. Little fights every 3 days, big fights every 5 days. Otherwise, they wouldn't have called off the engagement. The kids broke things off, right before the wedding. In that kind of environment, if the kids go with him, can they really focus on their studies? I can't bear to think about it. After thinking it over and over, I still want both kids to stay with me. Both of them are my flesh and blood. Even if the younger one has drifted apart from me over the years, and said those hurtful things, but he's still just a kid, 15 years old. What does he know? I don't want the kids to get held back. But people are stubborn at heart. Even if Li Huan agrees to let them go, my mother-in-law definitely won't. Those two are the Li family's legacy. How could he give them all to me? So I thought, maybe I'd give up the savings and the house. Just let Li Huan give me both kids. I opened a bubble tea shop in the county. I can make a few thousand a month. If I'm frugal, I can support them somehow. But I just called my sister to tell her. And she chewed me out. Sis, are you really that naive or just pretending? What kind of guy is Li Huan anyway? Why should he dump all his garbage on you? And make you the fall guy? So he can fly off into the sunset with Shen Yi? No way in hell. Her voice shot up immediately. Listening to what I had to say. If you really want to pick, let's pick the best one. Which kid is the most filial? Which kid has good grades and a promising future? Which one do you want? But when I heard that, I still couldn't help saying, but look at him. Which kid would I feel safe leaving with him? After all, it's been 10 years. But before I could finish, my little sister's voice snapped at me again. Don't be naive. Can you even afford to raise 2 kids? How much does it cost to rent a house? How much are the tuition and living expenses for the 2 kids? Have you even done the math? And if we both have custody, how do we split everything? I opened my mouth to say something, but she was right. The few thousand I make every month really can't support 2 kids. You're scared to favor the well-behaved one. Because you're worried about what people will say. But why should you care? Remember how Mom treated us when we were little? She gave everything good to our brother. Didn't we hate that? I don't hate him for the unfairness. I hate that we were so well-behaved, and still got nothing. Sis, it's time for you to take the well-behaved one's side for once. My sister's words hit me hard. The younger one is smart. He can cram and still get into the top 50 of his grade. His teacher said if he actually tried, he could aim for Pingbei University. What about the older one? Since the beginning of middle school, he's been waking up at 5 a.m. every day to memorize words, and studying until 11 p.m. at night. But in the last mock exam, the younger one didn't even study for math, and he scored 115. The older one studied for a whole month, and only got 112. The younger one held the test paper in front of him, and said, "Bro, you're trying way too hard." The older one didn't say a word. He just put the paper back in his bag, and kept working on the next problem. The smart one wins without breaking a sweat. The hard worker gives it everything just to get close to someone else's ankle. But I knew who I should side with. The news that Li Huan and I were getting divorced spread to both kids pretty fast. The night we were drafting the divorce agreement, Li Huan called the 2 boys into his room. The walls in the apartment were thin. I was in the kitchen, with the door slightly ajar, and their conversation drifted out. After the divorce, one of you two has to go with Aunt Wu. That was Li Huan's voice. The younger one heard it, and immediately flipped out. Why? Dad? We're your sons. Not his. You're getting divorced. So of course, we're staying with you. Hearing those words, I kept my rag flat on the stove. Li Huan's voice carried a hint of apology. Over at Dad's new place, Aunt Shen never had kids. Taking on two at once would be too much for him. And you guys have lived with Aunt Wu for so many years, switching environments all of a sudden would probably feel weird. And right then, the oldest Li Pingping's cold voice cut in. Dad, so is Aunt Wu willing to take us? Li Huan said. Your Aunt Wu is willing, of course. But he paused. I waited a few seconds. Water from the faucet dripped one drop at a time. But Aunt Wu isn't your real mom after all. She treats you well, sure. But you gotta know your boundaries. Anyway, that's settled. You guys talk it over. Who comes with me? And who stays with Aunt Wu? But Dad, the second kid obviously disagreed, and started kicking up a fuss right there. His voice got louder and louder. I couldn't help but walk over to the door. Just then, I saw the oldest Li Ping with his head down. Couldn't see his expression, just his back slowly caving in. At that moment, I suddenly remembered, every time the second kid called for Mom, he just stood nearby without saying a word. Every time I gave the second kid some food, he'd just finish his own plain rice. Every time the second kid broke something, he was the one silently cleaning it up. He knew he wouldn't be chosen, so this time he chose to speak first. Dad, then you take little brother. I'm about to take my high school entrance exams, and I don't want to change my environment. I was completely stunned. When I was 7, I once said something similar. Mom, save it for little brother to eat. When I was 7, I found a goose egg by the river, round and smooth, still warm in my hand. I ran home excited, held it up as soon as I walked in to show my mom. Mom, I found a goose egg. My mom took it from me, turned it over and over in her hands, and said this goose egg is huge. Eating it is good for your health. Son, yeah. Before she could finish, I jumped in. Mom, save it for little brother. My mom froze for a second, then smiled, and patted my head. Sanya is such a good girl. That night, I watched little brother eat the goose egg clean. He ate it so happily, and my mom smiled so warmly. I smiled right along with her. Now the oldest is just like me. He knew he wouldn't get chosen, so he chose to let go first. Bro. Second brother's voice snapped me out of it. All right, let's leave it at that. The oldest cut him off. A few light words, and Li Ping settled his own fate. Just like that girl from back then who gave away the goose egg. Exactly the same. The one who's well behaved isn't the one who doesn't want it. It's the one who doesn't dare to want. 3 days before I officially divorced Li Huan, my younger sister came back from Shenzhen. She said she took time off just for this, to have my back. Sis, you can't go to a situation like this alone. If you go alone, they'll think you're easy to push around. I originally thought getting the divorce certificate was all I needed to do, and the rest, oldest lives with, second brother stays with his dad, that would be it. But my sister reminded me. She found a lawyer ahead of time, and asked about everything in clear detail. Even though the oldest is with you, legally speaking, the child's biological parents are the first-order legal guardians. Even though you've formed a parenting relationship over these 10 years, if you don't go through the paperwork, his dad's side can take the kid back anytime later. I froze for a moment. So before the divorce, I had to sign everything that needed signing. And so, with my sister's help, we hired a lawyer and signed the documents. Sis, my sister lowered her voice. I even prepared an extra copy. The paperwork to cancel your nephew-in-law status with second brother. I wasn't really clear. What is this? I could only stare at him blankly. Sis, don't blame me for sticking my nose in. Second brother chose his dad. And you chose your elder son. Since you've made your choice, you should make sure the paperwork is clear. From now on, whatever happens to him, it's got nothing to do with you. If his dad and his biological mom cause trouble, they can't pin it on you. Sis, I know you have a soft heart. But think about it. If one day he messes up over there, and his dad says go ask Aunt Wu. Will you take responsibility or not? I didn't say anything. I just nodded at the younger sister. He's always been headstrong. I just go along with whatever he says. We can't skip a single step in the process. Settle the accounts today, so we can live a clean life from now on. The rest of the procedures went fast. Li Huan barely said a word the whole time. Second brother stood at the door, looking down at his phone, never lifting his head once. The eldest son stood next to me, also not saying anything. But after everything was settled, Li Huan pulled me aside again, and quietly made a request. The kid's got his high school entrance exam coming up. Could you take care of him for the last 2 months? I'm moving out tomorrow. For one thing, that place is far from his school, and he just got here. He needs time to adjust. Just 2 months. I'll pick him up after the exam. Hearing that, I nodded. Li Huan froze for a second, probably not expecting me to agree so easily. But right away, I asked Li Huan for 3,000 a month as foster care fees. He has nothing to do with me now. He's eating my food, staying at my place, so it's only fair I charge money. 3,000 it is. Li Huan gritted his teeth. From today on, transfer it to my card at the start of every month. If it's a day late, figure it out yourself. But back then, I didn't notice that Lian was standing not far from us. He heard his dad say, take care of him for the last 2 months. He heard me nod and say okay, but he didn't hear me ask his dad for 3,000. Li Huan moved out on a Friday. He packed up his own clothes, threw a few cardboard boxes into the van. Before he left, he patted the eldest on the shoulder. He glanced at number 2 again, said, be good and listen to your auntie, and then left. Before leaving, he seemed like he wanted to say something to me, but I ignored him. Maybe I'd seen this day coming all along. When Li Huan actually walked out of my life, I stayed pretty calm. That night, number 2 was still in his room gaming, and number 1 was still in his room doing homework. Everything looked just like yesterday. But deep down I knew nothing was the same. 3 days after Li Huan moved out, it happened to be the weekend. Number 2 stayed home gaming, while I took number 1 out shopping. I asked the shop owners I knew to help pick out colors for his skin tone, his vibe, and what colors looked good on him. A few women gathered around number 1, and he just stood there, not knowing where to put his hands or feet. We usually just wear school uniforms, Li Ping said quietly. I don't need that many clothes. But I looked at him and asked him that question. When you buy dark-colored clothes, is it because you like them, or because they don't show dirt? Hearing that, Li Ping froze for a second, and it took him a while to answer. Dark colors hide the dirt, he said, his voice really soft, and it made my nose sting. It's no big deal if your clothes get dirty. We have a washing machine at home. Even if they get really dirty, we can just get another one to throw in. You're already 1.8 meters tall now, and you won't get much taller than that. Buy more styles you actually like. They'll last you years. The shop owner next to us chimed in, saying how handsome he was, pulled out a few styles for him to try on, and even said with his look and build, she could take some model shots of him, and give us a huge discount. Li Ping's face turned red from all the compliments. Later he blushed and picked out a few pieces, sky blue ones. I watched him standing in front of the mirror, and suddenly remembered that little boy who wouldn't come near me from the end of the hallway years ago. Back then he was 8. Now he's 15, wearing a sky blue shirt, and the eyes in the mirror looked clean and good. He looked at himself in the mirror, then glanced at me. There was something in his eyes. I think it was happiness. The kind of happiness from not being used to being looked at like that. When we got back with all the bags, the younger one was playing games in the living room. As the door opened, he looked up, saw the bags in our hands, then looked at the older one's jacket that still had the tag on. His eyes lingered on those bags for a few seconds, then he stood up, walked into his room, and slammed the door shut. I didn't say anything. The older one stood at the entrance, still holding the bags, staring at the closed door. After a while, he said softly, "Mom, maybe don't." I cut him off. He'll come out when he's hungry. And besides, you're calling me Mom now, so it's only right that I'm partial to you. I patted his shoulder, letting him know that after Li Huan and I divorced, things were different. The older one heard me and didn't say another word. He carried the bags into his room, and when he came out, he passed by the younger one's door, stood there for 2 seconds, but didn't knock. That night, I heard the younger one on the phone. The walls were thin, so his voice came through in bits and pieces. He still wants me. That's what Dad said. He agreed to it. A moment later, his voice got louder. What do you know? If he didn't want me, he would have let me go with Dad long ago. Then he hung up. I was in my room, and suddenly froze for a second. So that's what he was thinking. I didn't explain. Some misunderstanding, if you clear them up, they just hurt more. Other than that, things changed around the dinner table. On the 7th day after Li Huan moved out, I was making pancakes in the morning, and I asked the older one, Ping, do you like it crispy or soft? The older one was stunned for a second. Probably never been asked that before. Either is fine. Either won't work. Do you like soft or crispy? He thought for a moment. Soft. After that, I'd add more water when making pancakes, thinning out the batter. The pancakes came out all soft. The younger one woke up that morning, took a bite of the pancake on the table, and frowned. Why's this pancake soft? Ping likes soft ones. He froze for a second, looked at the pancake in his hand, then at the older one's bowl. Finally he just stared at me. After a moment, he just slapped the pancake down on the table. I'm not eating. Eat it or don't. Either way, it's your stomach. When I answered, I didn't even look up. Lian stood up, the chair legs scraping against the floor with a nasty sound. He took a few steps, then stopped. Turned back to look. He was looking at the older one. The older one kept his head down, eating. Didn't look up. But I saw his hand tighten on the chopsticks. That was later, during dinner with the shrimp. A rare day off that day. I made a plate of braised shrimp. 1 pound 18 shrimp. Set it on the table. The older one, out of habit, reached for the greens. I pushed the plate toward him. Eat some shrimp. He froze for a second, looked at me. I didn't explain. Just pick the biggest ones and put them in his bowl. Eat more shrimp. They're nutritious. He looked down at the shrimp piled in his bowl, and said nothing. The younger one watched from the side, his chopsticks pausing. He picked one shrimp for himself, then put down his chopsticks, and stared at me. Why do you only serve him? I glanced at him. Then I kept eating. He's my son. Isn't it normal for me to serve him food? Hearing that, the younger one also stopped. He opened his mouth, then swallowed whatever he wanted to say. He didn't take a second shrimp for the rest of the meal. That night he gamed until really late. I knocked on his door to tell him to go to sleep. He grunted but didn't move. So, I didn't knock again. Before I would have nagged him 3 times, and even warmed a glass of milk for him. I wouldn't go to bed until I saw him shut his computer. But now I only nagged him once. I've already done my duty. The rest is his business. 15 days after Li Huan moved out, I made dinner like usual. Braised pork belly, garlic broccoli, and seaweed egg drop soup, all their favorites. At the table, the younger one kept his head down the whole time. He ate a few bites, then put down his bowl. The older one ate slowly. After finishing, he helped me take the dishes to the kitchen. At 9 in the evening, I habitually called them to drink milk and go to bed. But just as I handed the milk to the younger one, he was in the middle of gaming. I pushed the glass a little closer to him, reminding him to drink it later. He suddenly spoke up, cut the act. My dad said, "You're only nice to us 'cause you're scared no one will take care of you when you're old. Anyway, you're not our real mom. You're already divorced from my dad. Aren't you tired of pretending? Even if you keep acting, my dad's not coming back." Then he raised his hand, and that glass of milk flew, hit the edge of the coffee table, and glass shattered all over the floor. White liquid splashed everywhere. I didn't move. I just looked down at the mess. Right then, a roar came from the bedroom. Lian, the older one, burst out of his room. He saw the milk and the broken glass on the floor. He didn't say a word. He just charged straight over. He grabbed the second brother by the collar, yanked him off the couch, slammed him hard against the wall, Say that again, motherfucker. The second brother grunted from the impact, then stuck his neck out and shouted. Did I say something wrong? He didn't raise me. Why should I obey him? The big brother punched him in the face. The second brother cursed back. He's your mom, so you stick up for him? But the big brother just kept upkeep. He raised you for 10 years. So, is he or not? I didn't ask him to raise you. Did I say something wrong? He didn't give birth to me. What gives him the right to be my mom? The eldest didn't say anything else. Only the sound of fists hitting again and again. I couldn't stop it. In the end, both of them had black eyes and swollen faces. After taking 3 days off, one night, I got up in the middle of the night for water. I saw light coming through the crack in the second eldest's door. I walked over. I heard him talking softly inside. I don't know if he's changed lately, but he still wants me, right? Right. If he didn't want me, he would have left a long time ago. I don't know what was said on the other end of the phone. There was a long silence. Then I heard him say, yeah, he still wants me. Otherwise, why would he keep me? I stood outside the door holding my cup, not moving. Since that day, the two brothers barely spoke for a long time. Even when going out, one left 15 minutes early, and the other dragged it out by 15 minutes. A week later, the second eldest came back from school and coughed a couple times. I heard it, but said nothing. Before, at times like this, I would put down what I was doing, go boil a kettle of water, fill a hot water bottle, and then call him over to warm his back. Lian has bad bronchial tubes, always coughing since he was little. I learned a home remedy from back home. Every winter I use a hot water bottle to warm his back, and it helps a lot. But he hates being tied down. Every time I called him over, I'd have to nag him 3 times before Lian came to warm his back. Hold on. Lian, the water bottle's getting cold. Yeah, I know. Lian, you're so annoying. Then he'd come over reluctantly, turning his back to me. But now I don't call him, and instead he started asking. That night, he suddenly came out of his room, standing at the kitchen door. I was washing dishes back then. He stood there for a long time before speaking. Why haven't you been bugging me to iron your back lately? I kept washing without stopping. You don't like it, right? He froze for a second. You used to ask. Like, a bunch of times. You've changed. That was then. This is now. I went back to washing dishes. The faucet was running loud. I turned off the faucet. Then I turned around to look at him. Lian is 15 years old. He wasn't facing his dad. But the way his lips were pressed tight, it reminded me of when he was little. Back then he'd still run up and call me Mom. Lian. Your dad gives me $3,000 a month now. He froze for a second. What $3,000? I held up 3 fingers. It's your child support. His face went stiff. Didn't your dad and I agree before the divorce? You split with him. You live with me, use my stuff. So your dad pays me. I take care of you for 2 months. After 2 months, when you finish the high school entrance exam, he'll come pick you up. Hearing that, Lian suddenly choked up. He wanted to say something, but the words got stuck in his throat. I haven't changed. I cut him off. Now I just see things clearly. Your dad and I are divorced. You're not my son anymore. Now you're a guest I'm getting paid to take care of. I'll handle your meals and stuff. As for everything else, that's not my problem. After I said that, he just stood there with his mouth open, not saying a word for a long time. The faucet was still dripping. The kitchen was dead quiet. After a long pause, he finally spoke, his voice dull. Then, what about my brother? I looked him right in the eye. He's my precious son. Always will be. He lowered his head. Didn't say anything, didn't cry. He just stood there. His shoulders slumped. Like something precious had been taken from him. After a long pause, he finally spoke, his voice muffled. What about me? His voice was barely a whisper, so quiet it felt like he was asking himself. I looked into his eyes. Your dad is coming to get you. He didn't say anything else. Just turned and walked away. I heard his bedroom door close. He didn't slam it. This time it just clicked shut softly. And in that moment my heart ached. He used to slam doors because he knew someone would be waiting for him outside. Now he closed it gently because he knew no one would come in anymore. Later I went back to washing the dishes. I was halfway through when I looked up and saw the oldest one standing in the kitchen doorway. I didn't notice when he got there. He was looking at me, then glanced toward the youngest one's room. His lips moved, like he wanted to say something, but in the end he held back. He just walked over, picked up the dishes I'd washed, and dried them one by one, putting them in the cabinet. Finally, after a while, he said softly, "Mom." Hearing that, my heart fluttered a little. On the morning of the last day of the high school entrance exam, that morning before dawn, I got up quietly and carried the 2 suitcases I'd packed the night before to the door. The oldest one was already awake, with his back to me, stuffing things into his backpack. "No rush," I said. He just grunted, but his hands kept moving. Today was the day of the trip I'd promised him long ago. Neither of us had said a word about it. I went to the kitchen and took out the breakfast I'd made the night before from the fridge. Rice porridge, fried eggs, 2 small dishes of pickles, and a few pan-fried flatbreads. Crispy ones, the kind the youngest one loved. I stood by the table, staring at that breakfast. I stood there for a long time. "Let's go," I said. The oldest one came over and stood right next to me. He didn't even look at the table. He just nodded at me. But when we reached the alley entrance, the oldest suddenly stopped. He looked back at that window, the second son's room. The curtains were still drawn. "Mom," he said softly. "Yeah." I knew what he wanted to say. He wanted to ask, did he just leave like that? Awake? He wanted to ask if his brother would feel bad waking up and not seeing us. He wanted to ask if I was being a little cruel. "You're my son." I looked him in the eyes. "Leanne is your brother. That won't change." I paused. "But your dad and I are already divorced. Leanne isn't my son anymore. What your dad and I agreed on can't be broken." He was quiet for a while. Finally he nodded. So we kept walking. The alley was long. The shops on both sides were still closed. As we reached the entrance, I couldn't help but look back at that window. The curtains were still drawn. I let out a sigh. Then I turned back and kept walking. When Leanne woke up, the sun was already hitting the foot of the bed. He turned over, grabbed his phone to check the time. 9:30. The high school entrance exam was over. No school today. He stayed in bed a little longer, stretched, then slowly crawled out. The living room was quiet. No one. He went to the bathroom, passed by the oldest's room. The door was open. The bed was neatly made. No one there either. He took another look. Felt like something was off, but he didn't think much of it. He went to the living room, saw the breakfast laid out on the table. He sat down, picked up a flatbread and took a bite. It was crispy, just the way he liked it. His eyes lit up a little. He took another bite. Then he ate while scrolling on his phone. After finishing, he put the bowl and chopsticks in the sink. Then he went back to his room to sleep in. Even as he closed the door, he let out a yawn. To him at that moment, it was just an ordinary day. But he didn't know that pancake would be the last one. His childhood ended for good today. He didn't know the breakfast he used to take for granted wouldn't be there starting tomorrow. He didn't know the person who always asked if he'd come home for dinner would never text him again. He didn't know the person who put a cold towel on his forehead when he had a fever would never sit by his bed again. He didn't know the person he found annoying, too naggy, and not his real mom, had gently closed the door and left. That morning, he had no idea about any of it. Leanne later moved into Li Huan's new house. He was living with Shen Yiyi. Shen Yiyi was cold to him. She sat on the couch, legs crossed, scrolling on her phone. When she saw him come in, she just lifted her eyes a bit. "Back?" "Insta swelse kitchen." Then she went back to scrolling. Leanne stood at the entrance, pausing for a moment as he changed his shoes. He didn't say anything. He changed his shoes, slung his backpack over his shoulder. He went into his room. Before the door closed, he could hear the TV from the living room. Shen Yiyi was watching a variety show, laughing really loud. After that, that's how things became. Shen Yiyi didn't bother with him. Not that she didn't care, But she didn't want the kids. Li Huan brought it up to him once, said you need to pay more attention to the kids. And he just snapped right there. What am I supposed to pay attention to? They're not my kids. I told you from the start. I can't handle having 2 kids moving in. You're the one who insisted on bringing them. And now you're complaining. I'm not helping. You handle it yourself. Once she heard that, she just went quiet. After that he just stopped caring too. He started going on more and more business trips, coming home less and less. Occasionally he'd come back, just to sleep in a rush, and leave first thing the next morning. No choice. Lian started heating up his own food. At first it was leftovers, but then he noticed there often weren't any. Shen Yi didn't cook. He'd order more takeout himself. So Lian started learning to cook instant noodles, fry eggs, heat up frozen dumplings. One time he was cooking instant noodles. Didn't put enough water. Noodles got burnt. Bottom of the pot turned black. He crouched there scrubbing it with a steel wool pad. Scrubbed for a while but couldn't get it off. Shen Yi passed by the kitchen and glanced in. Said the pot's burned. Figure it out yourself. Then she just walked off. After that Lian learned how much water to put, how high to turn the heat, when to drop the noodles, when to turn off the stove. He even learned how to make fried rice. Sometimes it was too salty, sometimes too bland. But at least it was edible. He also learned to wash his own school uniform. First time he didn't know to separate colors. White uniform got stained with colors. After that he knew. Separate dark and light. White clothes need bleach. You gotta scrub the collar and cuffs first. He figured out how to go to parent-teacher conferences on his own. The first time, the teacher asked where his parents were. He said they were on a business trip. The teacher glanced at him, and didn't ask again. After that, every parent-teacher conference, he went by himself. His dad was busy. Shen Yi wasn't gonna hold his hand. One time, after a conference, it got dark. He walked home alone. On the way he saw a kid holding his mom's hand, carrying a freshly bought sausage. He glanced at them, and kept walking. When he got to the downstairs, he suddenly remembered. He used to have a mom who'd hold his hand too. Back then, he was little. When he got tired, she'd squat down and carry him on her back. He'd lay on her back, hugging her neck, smelling the fragrance in her hair. He was about to forget what that smelled like. Half a year later, Lian came down with a high fever, 102.6 degrees. His brain was totally foggy. Li Huan was on a business trip at the time. Shen Yi was in the living room binge-watching shows. He called out, "Mom." No response. He called out again. Still nothing. He forced himself to get up, went to the living room to get some water. Shen Yi glanced at him, and said, "Drink more hot water." Then she turned back to the TV. He took the glass back to his room, lay down, stared at the ceiling, and couldn't fall asleep for a long time. Even after taking the meds, he still felt terrible from the fever. Couldn't sleep. He remembered when he used to get fevers, Aunt Wu would fold a towel into a square, and put it on his forehead. She'd change it every 15 minutes. She'd rinsed the used towel in cold water, and put it back on. She'd sit by the bed, asking if he felt better, asking if he wanted to eat something, asking if he wanted some water. He'd think she was annoying, too naggy. He was annoyed that he always came into his room. So that time Aunt Wu made some congee. She came in with the bowl to feed him. He didn't say anything, just cleaned it up, and made another bowl. Later he couldn't remember if he drank the congee or not, but he remembered him sitting on the edge of the bed, holding a towel in his hand, looking at him. There was something in his eyes he didn't understand. Back then he didn't get it. Now he thinks he does. He pulled out his phone, opened up WeChat, scrolled to his profile picture. The chat history stopped 6 months ago. His last reply to him was a single word. "Okay." Scrolling up. All messages were from him, telling when to dress warmer. "Are you done with your homework? Go to bed early. Stop playing video games all the time. Don't drink cold stuff if your cough isn't better. Did you get that?" He never replied to a single one. Sometimes he'd open them and read them, then close the app. Next time he remembered, it was already days later. And now, he couldn't help but type a few words. "I have a fever. staring at the screen, his finger hovering over the send button. He suddenly remembered waking up that morning. The living room was quiet. On the dining table was breakfast, congee, fried egg, side dishes, and a pancake. Next to it, a glass of milk. He thought it was just another ordinary day. But he didn't know it would be the last. That afternoon, his dad came to pick him up for his new home. His older brother also sent him a message, saying that they were going to be apart from now on, telling him to take good care of himself. And Aunt Wu never sent him a message again. In the end, Lian could only delete those words. Deleted them one by one. After deleting, he tossed his phone aside, closed his eyes. But in his mind he suddenly remembered the pancakes Aunt Wu used to make for him every morning. Crispy on the edges. Warm. Then that winter, Lian passed by that old street again. For some strange reason, he took out the keys to his old home. He was about to open the door. But just as he was about to put the key in the lock, he suddenly snapped out of it. He put the keys away. He remembered what his older brother had told him on the phone a while back. Because this place was too far from his high school, Aunt Wu had already sold the house. She moved closer to his brother's high school. This place was no longer his home. The winter wind blew into his collar. Lian tucked his neck in. He remembered the pear soup Aunt Wu used to make for his cough. He thought it was too sweet. He'd only take a couple of sips and put it down. He remembered his school uniform. It was always clean and pressed. He remembered the buttons Aunt Wu sewed back on for him. The stitches were tiny and neat. It felt like he'd lost someone who truly cared for him from the bottom of her heart. Then suddenly, Lian remembered years ago when Aunt Wu used to walk him to school and pick him up, carrying his backpack in her hand. Back then she always held his hand. Back then he called her mom. 10 years later, Li Ping stayed in Shenzhen. After graduating from college, since he was in the new tech industry, it didn't take long for him to make a name for himself. He bought a house in Shenzhen and brought me over. He worked late every day, but he always came home for dinner. I made soup for him every day. He'd finish it and always say it was so good. Mom, your cooking is the best. The clothes he bought were all sky blue. Because that year I told him he looked good in sky blue. Sometimes when I look at him, I think of that little boy who stood at the end of the hallway too scared to come over. Now he walks over to me every day, gives me a hug, and smiles as he says, "Mom, go to bed early." And then he goes back to work. The light in his room stays on till really late. He's still as hardworking as ever. Friday evening, Li Ping came home early from work, carrying a paper bag in his hand. "Mom, that old bran pastry you said you wanted last time. I got it. I was in the kitchen making soup at the time." He looked back for a second. "You spent money again. I could have gone by it myself. It takes you an hour on the subway to get there." I was talking about the road. Li Ping put the pastries on the table. He walked into the kitchen. "Is the soup ready? Let me carry it." I watched him set the bowls and chopsticks with ease. I felt a little dazed. Since when did this guy who used to be so quiet, standing at the end of the hallway, that little boy who was too scared to come to me, ended up becoming my support? Last winter I got sick. It wasn't anything serious. Just a cold and a fever. But Li Ping took 3 days off. Stayed home to take care of me. "Isn't your company busy?" I was lying in bed watching him bring me water and medicine. "It's not busy." Li Ping put the fever medicine on the nightstand, then reached over and felt my forehead. "Still a bit warm. Don't talk, just rest. Get more rest." I closed my eyes. Fell in and out of sleep. Woke up in the middle of the night. Saw the little nightlight by the bed still on. Li Ping was sitting in the chair next to me. His head was leaned back, asleep. His laptop was still on his lap. The screen was still lit up. He was working. I looked at his sleeping face. Suddenly I remembered that night years ago when I had a fever. Back then he was only 12. He stayed by my bed just like this. Stayed all night. Back then he never called me mom. Now we're the closest people in the world. As for Lian and Li Huan, Lian didn't get into college after high school. Li Huan found him an apprentice job at a car repair shop. He worked there for a year. Quit because it was too hard. Later he tried delivering packages. Food delivery. Security guard. None of them stuck. Shen Yi divorced Li Huan when his son was a sophomore in high school. Same reason as before. Couldn't take it anymore. Li Huan found someone else after that. Didn't work out. Later he even came begging me to get back together. But I said no. At my age, I don't want to just settle anymore. Later Li Huan tried to take custody of Li Ping from me, to force me to give in. But we'd already signed an agreement before. Li Ping is legally my adopted son now. He can't take him away. After that, Li Huan lived alone. His hair turned gray. He looked worn down. He'd call Li Ping sometimes. Just say dad's got no skills. You gotta make something of yourself. News about Lian. I'd hear a thing or two from Li Ping now and then. But he never reached out to me. And I never reached out to him either. Some roads, once you take the wrong turn, you just keep going down it. Some debts, once they're settled for good. I suffered through over 20 years of favoritism. Swore I'd never be a mom who plays favorites. But in the end I finally got it. Real fairness isn't giving everyone the same amount. It's giving the most to the one who deserves it the most. I got a text when I turned 60. From an unknown number. Just 4 words. Mom, I miss you so much. I stared at it for a long time. Didn't reply. The sun outside the window was nice. I put my phone away. Went into the kitchen to make Li Ping some soup. Some roads, once you take the wrong turn, you just keep going down it. Some cakes, once they go cold, they're just cold. The end.